Hello everyone, welcome back. Time for a new update. But before we actually go into the summary of this past 4 months, I would like to say that this video represents more than just an update, represents the end of a big chapter in my life on this journey. It's been a very complex, tough period of work and growth and transformation. And at times it wasn't just hard, it was impossibly hard. And I'm not saying this to complain, I'm just saying this to acknowledge that particular fact. And that doing this work, an important foundation has been laid, personally and, well, more than just that. Even though this work and what I've done and what I'm doing here seems to be like invisible and like has no impact or very minimal. I know its value, I know what I'm doing and what I had to do and to continue to do. I'm very happy to announce that actually this is the end of that particular time. I would say this really tough training, and a new chapter begins for me from now on. But without actually going into what's coming next, let's go back a little bit in time to actually talk about what happened in this past 4 months. So the end of the year brought, moving into the new year, this threshold where the energy was much lighter, but then again it was strangled. I said before that in this past, I would say 3, 4, 5 years actually, it's been increasingly harder to actually move through as the split has continued and still continues in this higher phases of this process. The battle between one reality and the other for quantum has increased in intensity as well. And the difference in this time, what's important, like what makes that difference is the actual work, the thing that I always emphasize, that I always stress and insist and annoy with. Moving into the new year, like I said, it came with a much lighter energy, but because things have actually have been held back, because actually this is going to be the title of this period, being held back, or I don't know, stalling, that would be even better. But held back or stalling, it's basically kind of the same thing. So this is what has actually been the mark of the spirit being held back. Yet progress has been done in spite of being held back. What happened in the last year, because of the energy being reaccreted and growing in energy, the energy that is being accreted through the spring and summer months is being siphoned out in the colder months in each hemisphere. In this case, in the North Hemisphere, has been, November, December, January, February, things like that. And it's getting worse and worse, or it's gotten worse and worse, especially in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, because, there's something that cannot be stopped. I mean, the inevitable cannot be stopped, but like I said before, some things can be delayed, and that's the procedure, so to speak, to actually siphon out energy from the grid. And it's very easy when you have most minds connected to things that you give your energy and your attention to things that basically keep you in a frequency of fear, where it's very easy to lose that energy, and you think that that's life, and in reality it's not. So in this past, during the winter, I would like, if I were to divide this period of time, I would say that from, because we left it in December, from late December to beginning of March, there was this complete strangle and immovable thing And only in the beginning of March there was like kind of like a little bit like a release of the this like holding this back, like let's breathe a little bit from here. And there's like this moments these days where the energy would like be allowed to circulate a little bit more, and then again would be strangled, and again a little bit of whatever, a little bit more loose and relaxed, and things because of that would change. And from the beginning of, well, end of March and beginning of April, and now throughout April, because I'm at the end of April when I'm filming this, things have been allowed to circulate more and do what they need to do. I mean, to do the work that, I mean, the clearing and release that was possible. So in this I would call this the lowest part, which was from like December until February. Actually, February has always like been the lowest, also in last year and 2 years ago. And actually February has been a month where basically the siphoning out is like we reached that point where basically all energy is being, well, most of the energy that's been accreting over the summer, spring months is being basically completely well, most of it being siphoned out. So a lot of things can implement, a lot of weird things start to happen. And this comes, and here comes that thing what I said, I'm going to talk about Ukraine. And also the pandemic, which I actually, as I said, I wanted to stay out of it because I knew what that was. And I want to say that these two things, although for you may not be a reality that you experience inside and something that you think that that's true or whatever, they are implants. They are here to, besides delay the inevitable, these are things that can change the course of certain whatever timelines and things like that. But that's one level of reality, because in the end these things are allowed because beyond good and bad there is a use for that. There's transformation happening even in the worst of times. So I think the thing that united people now, especially the situation with Ukraine, is because it is so absurd, and it's like it has no real cause. It's like why this whole thing started. That has made even the most, how should I say, not ignorant, but like even the most, I don't know, people from the remotest places that I have nothing to do with this. Like, why would even, I don't know, bother me? Why would I be interested in caring about this thing? Were kind of like drawn in, like sucked into the story, and like felt like this compassion, and I don't know, started to relate with the suffering of those people. Although, as I said, this is an implant, and I'm talking about this because I can access that level of detection. That's the best I can describe. And for me that's very clear. And this happened, like I said, this happened in this period of time where it is its lowest, when the grid has lost a lot of energy, because most people, even if a lot of energy has been accreted over the summer and spring months, most people, as I said, live unconsciously. So they give their energy to whatever things, like, oh, here, this, oh, that, whatever. So you lose that without thinking twice. I'm not saying everyone, but like most people. And when there's no discernment, well, the fact that you're losing your focus and your energy on things that are not really, not just beneficial, but like they are meant to distract you from actually doing what's important, and that is actually getting control over what you actually see and understand and experience, so you can move beyond fear. It's very easy to actually insert an implant like this. And the way I can describe this, how an implant happens, or like whatever in the field, it's something that's unnatural. It's all of a sudden something shows up and it's like, that's not natural and that's overimposed. It's like a rape. That's the best I can describe. It's like something that you don't know what hit you. It's like or something like you don't know what hit you. It's like it's something that it's just you have no control over it, but it happened. So like I said, this is possible still at this level because enough minds, and now here we still share this common reality, so I can see what other people can see, but it affects in a different way because of how many points of connection we have with the old reality. So some people might feel like this is more real, less real, this is more painful, this is less painful, whatever, or things that actually can pull you in and force you to give your attention and your energy and your focus to those things. So the same thing happened with the pandemic, but most people couldn't acknowledge this because, and this, by the way, when I saw it happening in the field, and it was just weird movements, and I actually talked about that before, and there was this update just before the whole thing started, and I talked about also some other things before the pandemic started, how things are going to change in regards to technology and, well, more online stuff. Now we live that. Like I said, I know that for most people, what I say, this is whatever, but I personally have access to that kind of level of reality where I can see when something is an implant and something is not an implant. And I don't see it as good or bad, because if I stay there, then I'm trapped. And I need to move forward well and go wherever I need to go. And that's why I said the energy is here if you actually manage, to move beyond fear. But you have to retain that energy. You have to use it for your own process of transformation. And as long as you lose that energy by giving it away to different events and things that, well, they seem real without actually questioning them, it's like, oh, this is like that and this is like whatever, you will lose time and you lose quantum. And so far people have basically lived a very limited existence, also because of, we have the opportunity throughout life to actually move in energy and to work with more energy, but the way things have been here, because of the distortion, because of all sorts of distractions, people throughout their lives and going in this journey of life tend to lose themselves in all sorts of things and patterns and beliefs and convictions and whatnot, and that energy is lost. So there's no more energy to actually get control over your mind and actually go beyond what you think it's real and how things work. So that has been really problematic here. By retaining that energy and working with, allowing that energy to help you transcend this particular level of what has been until now. So yeah, generally this period of time, it has been about stalling and delaying things, although, like I said, it's inevitable to move beyond fear. But like I said, because there are enough minds that are still at that level where, whatever you see is like this distraction, is like, it's outside of myself, it's not actually the screen of my mind, it's outside of myself, I have no power over it. And I understand there's a level of energy where that actually is the reality that you experience. But like I said, the work is here to help you recover that control over your power, over your mind, over what you experience. It's not easy, but it is possible, it's doable. So yeah, that's what's been generally this period of 4 months, what has been, is like what has happened in very, very, like I said, loose and very general terms. But we are at, like I said, now at the end of April, and the energy is actually coming back, although it's still strangled, but things look very, very different. The other thing that I noticed throughout this period of 4 months, although for the first, I would say 3 or 4 months, no, 4 months in total, but like in the first, well, from December until the end of February, it felt immovable. It's like no matter how much I would try to clean, if I would think, okay, I would feel like this, a lot of things were blocked also for me personally in my life. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And also because I share my life with other people. And because I share my life with other people, so I communicate with their own systems. So therefore I experience also more blockages or other things. So then I do what I need to do and I start to clean. And I saw that even if I would do this cleaning, the release that naturally would follow after that would be delayed, which normally does not happen. It's like if there is energy enough to just release something, when you manage to hit that, whatever that element that can be released at that point, it will be released. But if the energy is blocked and it's not allowed to actually circulate, enter your system and move things and push them out, things will feel like nothing is moving, just it's like won't budge, like you can't do anything. So that was how it felt for most of this time. It's like it felt immovable. However, when the energy would come back from time to time, it would feel like this moment where I felt like, oh, we're still here. But when the moment would like, energy would like turn on, so to speak, I would see that I'm in a different place. I was like, oh, things actually have changed, but I'm not allowed to see this change because somebody is continuously is like trying to just like have the light shut like down. It's like no light, nothing. It's like, so you believe that things are whatever, dark and horrible and whatever, when in reality it's a forced illusion to think that there's no way out of it. And it is a powerful illusion, but it's just an illusion. So that has been basically the experience, the theme of this period. That's how it felt until now. Moving into the higher reality is like going through the eye of the needle. I'm sure you heard this expression, well, in one of like Jesus' sayings and whatever, in the Bible and things like that. And what does this mean? It means that we cannot take with us things, not necessarily people thought that it's about material things, that, oh, this might actually, like having things, possessing things is a bad thing. In reality, is the following. Any structure, mental structure, pattern, whatever structure that is based on fear and on limitation has no place in a higher reality where things work in a different way based on other rules. And most of the things that you see created in this world is based on fear. Not that you don't experience good things or having whatever material things give you pleasure or learn from them and actually grow your awareness, expand your awareness. So not necessarily experiencing or having those things is a bad thing, but actually being not seeing them for what they are, what they can do, or how you can use them in the best way that you can grow your awareness. That's when the problem sets in. It's like that's when there's a problem. And the societal construction that we have are based on this like blocks of fear. It's just a lot of fear. And people see now their lives being dismantled and understand, oh, why I'm losing this, why I'm losing this job and this house or this person, whatever, is because of, like I said, you're forced out of that little box so you can see more. So you're being pushed out. It's like, look at things. And it's painful. I've been there. It's really painful. But it's not meant necessarily as a cruel thing, as like, oh, you're being punished and whatever. No, it's about creating space and actually seeing the truth. And when you create that space and you have that space, then those things can return to you in a form that actually you realize, so I don't need this to be that or whatever, but I can enjoy those things from a place of a higher understanding. So not necessarily the things are the problem, is the more of the lack of space inside oneself, inside one's mind, to actually see how things really work. So that's what's happening, that's what's taking place right now. That's why it's so painful and weird and crazy and frightening for a lot of people, and especially for those that haven't only now start on this journey and their life are being thrown in all directions and feel like, oh God, what's happening to me, what have I done wrong, or whatever. And yeah, so that's part of like this basically dismantling the old reality, basically forcing one out of fear, out of these blocks, these constructions based on fear. So that's really painful and scary. In this period of 4 months, well, obviously a lot more things have happened. Like, I mean, personally, a lot of healing, more things have been sorted through, as like I've been outgrowing even more layers of awareness as a result of the work, but also as the energy was being allowed to circulate, well, here and there, very rarely basically in those really immovable months, but more towards now. And one of those moments of outgrowing was this, I was watching this film, Call Me By Your Name. It's a love story, it's a beautiful film. And it's set somewhere in an idyllic space in Italy. Anyway, and that film triggered this realization, an insight that I was brought up in a similar environment where there was safety and as growing up, I mean. And I had the space to actually nourish myself with ideas, with books, with things, with creativity, with a lot of things before I was actually thrown into the world and had to deal with, say, the monsters and the dragons and things like that to actually, make my way through the noise and through the whatever, all the unpleasant things that I had to go through. So it was kind of like a buffer. It was preparing me before like being thrown into the actual battles, and it was meant to give me, to cultivate that space, to always have that inside me, that I could see beyond the noise of the world and see reason and it's like make sense of things, and not always give into fear when I would see things that were like, this is not possible, this is whatever. So I would always I would have that, I would say, baggage of good things that I had cultivated over that time, that decade, or whatever, in that decade in my life. And I could actually use that whenever I would need it, especially in those darker moments, in those moments where you feel like alone and lost, and it's very hard. So that was something very that actually hit me as I was watching this film. And but it's more than just that, because with that came also the awareness that I've outgrown more than just that. It's all this, the things that I was explaining in the previous video about identity and how that forms, and how we tell stories of life. A lot of this geopolitical, historical things have been, personally, I was pushed out of it. I was like, I've grown those things, not just as an intellectual thing, but as in like, I managed to clear so much and see so far outside of the things that those things have loosened their hold on my mind. So therefore they're not as real and as like solid as they have been. So therefore I can see them for what they are, and they're not just something that like keep me there and say, no, that's it, that's the truth, and there's nothing else and whatever. So that's one of the things that that took place. Another thing that happened during this time is revisiting basically this thing, what I said about good and beyond, going beyond good and bad. I spoke about it in previous updates, especially something I think I talked about in the summer last year, but also throughout last year, And now we're in other layers of that. And it was something what I would call reaching this level where it says renouncing God and being God. What does this mean? Is that, well, until now people have been taught to actually give their power outside of themselves to a God, to an entity that's like, oh, here, this guy is going to solve me this problem, whatever, I have to pray to him and whatever. So that's how has worked, the things has worked. And like I said, this has to do with how energetically things have been, the conditions, the environment has been until now, and it was a way to actually reaccreting energy and actually understanding that there is more than what you just see, and you are more than what you see and understand in even lower energy environments, when there was even less energy and less light. But because we're moving beyond a certain threshold, that becomes unnecessary and redundant, basically. And although, like I said, most minds are still trapped in these structures, in this fear-based structures. And when you judge things from the good and bad perspective, you don't feel like trusting a God, or like God, like say, oh, this is stupid. It's like how God allows this and this catastrophe and this terrible thing. So from that level, God as a concept, as a entity that presides over the world and does this thing and whatever is the master of the world, makes absolutely no sense. And not just this, but create a lot of frustration inside most people. So a lot of people start to doubt, and they say, oh, screw God, it's like I'm going to do whatever I want and whatever. Turn the other way. And lose themselves in a different way. I mean, in different structures, in different patterns. And forget why they came here in the first place. And yeah. And one of the things that I was shown as I was once again outgrowing more levels in awareness, things that I cannot even explain, honestly. I'm repeating certain things because I find no words. I'm just trying to give you kind of like an explanation that can actually make you understand what's this about. And renouncing God and becoming God, or being God, is about renouncing to see everything through good and bad and be at the mercy of good and bad, because that's very, very limited. And understand what you see is just a very small story. It's just very little that has to do with the actual truth. And for me, all this time has been the struggle was to let go of my own story and things that I lived through, all sorts of cruel things and absurd, and felt cheated by life and felt like, but I've done the right thing. Why am I the one who gets slapped? Why am I the one who pays the highest price? Why? So I fought with this for a very long time, but worked through it to release. And this has come in many layers of that. And now it was just another level where was that this could no longer have a hold on me. I mean, since quite of a long time now that things don't have the same hold on me, but like there was another level where this was like, oh, so now it's just, you can really not give anything outside of yourself if you want to actually access your power. And most people still do that, give their power outside of themselves, to events, to things, to people, to whatever, to God. Instead of like, look, come back here, work here, so you believe that you actually are that, and not just that, but you can express that, and you actually you express and you experience that reality inside yourself. And yes, it is work, and it's not easy. Like I said, it takes time, it takes persistence, it takes patience. And that was another big moment where, like I said, things have shifted, and it's like, because things are getting narrower and narrower in energy, and it's like moving, as I said, into higher fields, not understanding that things are beyond good and bad, it comes in conflict and like butt heads with the higher reality, so to speak, and it's like you have to finally let go of that and basically experience the truth of what you are. And it's always like not just think of like a God outside of yourself, but what you are, like be that. So it was another moment, another threshold that I reached, in not just in understanding, but like where I hit that state that where things are, and it just there's some things that you cannot go back to anymore. It's like because that has crystallized inside yourself, and it's just like, you know, that if you repeat something like how things have been until now, that's not going to lead anywhere, and it was just going to make you more and more frustrated. But then again, having to continue to do the work and push through the fear, push through all this thing, it's not easy either. So that also can be frustrating, but then again, that's the only way forward. Another thing that came up during this time, and it was something that I was working hard, not just now in this past few months, but like all these years, was dislodging this expectations placed on me by, as you grow up, you have the expectations of your family, your immediate group, like it's like family, school, friends, whatever, their families, society. So I grew up with a lot of expectations placed on me, and I'm the type of person that I don't like to disappoint naturally by how I am inside, how I am structured inside, my internal architecture. And when you have extras, like things placed on you, and you want to do well, you don't want to disappoint, and people expect that you're not going to disappoint, and you're not allowed to fail, not allowed to make mistakes, you have to be strong, you have to push through, you have to whatever, that can become a real burden in life. And I had a lot of those things placed on me, not because I just wanted to just take extra burden, but I was like, okay, I'm not the type of person to actually disappoint, and like I don't like to do that. And I want to make people, at least let's say my family or things like that, be, I don't know, happy, content, proud of me or whatever, because of certain things that I do achieve, whatever. And when you're thrown into outside of the small box, outside of your small identity, into this bigger understanding that all of a sudden restructure completely your life, it's very, very scary when those things seem like whatever you're supposed to do, you're not going to do that anymore, or not the same way, and you feel like you're disappointing, or you're making mistakes and whatever, although you don't, but it's like you feel like a failure because you choose to do something else or to do things in a different way. And it took me a very long time until I could dislodge this type of expectations that were placed on me. There was a big, big burden on me. And I was watching this podcast when this happened. I was like, obviously about some mental health or whatever, things like that. Somebody was explaining, about healing, emotional, whatever, healing, stuff like that. And the person that was talking about these things, I realized we had this common programming, the same problem, among other things. It triggered this realization, but also this healing point, this like moment where finally I could let go. It took this long to actually, not because until then I didn't work on this, but then I had the energy, and it's like the way things finally could like dislocate and like let go was supposed to be by watching this or whatever, and the energy, how it came through to actually give me that experience like that. And as this thing happened, it's like my head started to like move like back and forth, and start just like basically move like by itself. It's like finally something was freed instantaneously as that realization came. It's like all of a sudden, like, what's going on? It's just like was this complete release, and it was like, oh great, finally this was released. And it felt again that another portion of my mind was freed, and I was like, oh great. It's just, and realized that well, I knew that like chocolate was a way to relieve that that pressure and like smooth things when I felt like I feel like I'm disappointing. I feel like I'm not doing what they're expecting me to do. I'm trying to do that, but then again, if I do that, that's not true. That's not right. But if I don't do it, it's just going to think that I'm a failure or I'm a whatever. So it's been impossible. That's what I can say. And anyway, so that was another moment of healing where things happened like in a natural, like finally was released and there was a physical reaction, like something that was completely obviously inside me was finally released, and I just could see like, oh, things are moving in a different way, and I was like, oh, I could feel that things look and feel different. Yeah. In the category of healing, especially like big wounds, like what I said earlier about these things I couldn't dislodge, this expectations placed on me that were weighing on me so heavy. I was one of the other bigger wounds that I could not release until now was something that it was hard for me to just forgive, because I had no place for that. Like, there was no point of reference. How could I forgive something like that inside myself when I haven't done that to anyone? And I mean, that for me and how I was structured until now was impossible to, because it was so absurd and it's like cruel, that I was just, how can I actually give the other person the forgiveness so I can and move on, I mean. And without going into details and making it into something that, I mean, it's not about complaining now, I just wanted to point out that it came, well, this actually happened in the early March, as the energy was coming back on and off, but it was coming back. I had this discussion with a friend of mine, and we were talking about certain things that we're trying to figure out from the past, and I was telling him something that I was not okay with, and strangely enough, he didn't give me the response that I was expecting, but at the same time, he gave me something even more valuable than I expected to get from that interaction, that discussion. And it was completely unexpected, because he's like, he was telling me about, well, a story about his life, and where he did a similar thing that I lived from somebody close to me, and something that has to do with like basically being left alone to die and not being helped when you need to, and you sink into the abyss, and somebody looks at you helplessly, say, I'm sorry, I cannot do anything for you, but looks there, is like not even trying, just looks helplessly, and there's like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything, and lets you basically die and whatever. And then you have to pick up yourself, which I did, and come back to life. And it's something that I was just like, I could not forgive that, because it was just harsh. It's like, how can this, but I understood why. Anyway, so he was telling me about something similar, and that had to do with, well, this person's father, and it's like, I can't forgive myself for how I treated him. And he just burst into, he was crying, and it just like hit me, because he gave me a way to forgive this event, to finally free myself, because I wanted for so long to free myself from it, but just I could not, I didn't have inside myself the space, the referral for this. How can I actually extract this horrible thing that happened? I didn't have the tools, I just couldn't just do it. And as he was just opening himself, this person was opening up and just telling me this, I said, I could not lose the affection for this person, because this person confessed this thing to me. And I thought, like, if I don't lose affection for this person, then I for sure I can forgive the other person. To start to free myself from this particular situation and feel like, oh, okay, there is a way out. I just could not find it because it was so cruel. But because I saw that he was sorry, and the other person was not showing me that was sorry, because this person does not have the ability to actually empathize to that level, because it has blockages inside, and that doesn't allow this person to actually have access to that kind of, like, to understand what pain and what went through me back then. And was just like, that's why it was like I did not see any sorry there for me to actually, okay, I can forgive. So it's like, if there's no real sorry there, then it's like I don't know how to do this. Really, it was like something that was blocked. It's just, anyways. And as I said, this person gave me the opportunity to, just like somebody gave me now a tool, even if it was an indirect tool, that I could actually finally start to release this thing that I could not free myself from, could not forgive. In the beginning I didn't want to, because like there's no sorry, I don't see any sorry there. So it's like, how am I supposed to forgive? And then I was like, well, now I can. It's going to take a little more time, but I'm going to completely release this. So that was another big moment for me. In terms of physical changes and how this past period has felt, like I said, because of the black strangled energy throughout this like winter month, culminating in February with just lowest, it was just like there were these weird cravings, because like the only thing that helped during this time to actually stay more like grounded and clean, actually was consuming something that I said that I was starting to use last year, which is barley grass and wheatgrass, just with water, just making like a green juice. And every other type of food felt weird, but at the same time, the only thing that would like kind of shield me from this very, very unpleasant things that were happening in the background, these movements, this siphoning out energy in the grid, was consuming at times more fat, which was like from whatever vegan plant-based stuff, because obviously that's what could until now consume. But I came to basically the end of it, and like kind of getting problematic, because it's a forced period. It's not like it basically is trying to take all the energy that has been acquired. It's like everything that has been accreted, like forced to push things back. And that's the thing, things don't go back, even if the energy is being sucked out, everything that has been actually collected through the spring and summer months. But it's terrible for the body and the mind. It's like, why this is happening? So you need help. You have to help yourself. Of course, I took some other supplements. The situation with the sleeping was just as bad. Not much has helped, really. It has been, at least it wasn't that bad as it was maybe 2 years ago, when I felt like my kidneys were going to implode. Because I had less points of connection, much had been cleared before entering this like decreased and energy being siphoned out. So it was less, it felt more like a ghost thing, but something like holding you back. That's why I said the spirit is like being held back. It's like you can't move forward, but you're not moving backward. It's just like being held back. And that's how it felt in many ways. And like I said, the thing that worked was this, like with barley grass and wheatgrass powders, like to make like a green juice. And actually, strangely, the other thing that has helped throughout this like weird month Using scented candles. I have something from Illume or something like that, and it's called Sea Salt. It's so beautiful, and it was like this thing that was like calming me down and like enveloping me like in something like a blanket of just, I don't know, like a cocoon around me, that was kind of like relaxing my mind. And it's like I didn't need to just consume this or that. It's just like what's relaxing my mind. It felt like you're okay, there's no need to do this or that, whatever. So that's what has helped this past few months. But other than that, everything has felt stale, has felt expired. Things feel like they have no place in the present, because they are just, like as I said, these are forced things to maintain a status quo which doesn't exist anymore. But it's an illusion, it's a strong illusion, and this illusion is felt and experienced by most people because of the state that they're in and the state that they're allowed themselves to be in. So yeah, that's what has been so unpleasant over this past month. The other thing that was, I think this is one of the things that I'm going to actually conclude this video with, because things were getting really, really bad with the sleeping situation, no matter what I did, and I knew why. Without going into details, like I said, there's certain things that it's about safety, so that's why I don't go into more detailed explanation, or at least not here. I was altered again. I received help, and that was the beginning of this month. I think it was on the 7th. As more energy came, and a lot of things have unblocked, and finally I could move the things that we were working in the background for our lives. Just finally found a way to move forward. And also on my right side, things have been freed much more. I received some help to free the part that was most under siege, under attack all this time, and it's inside the pineal. And I don't put any more pictures of the weird things that show up on my body, like I said, for safety, for my own safety. But those, close to me know certain things, so I don't have to convince anyone that it's true or not true of anything. I don't do this to convince anyone it's true or not true. Those that can feel that it's true, they'll understand it's true. So I suffered basically another intervention, and after that I felt this release, and like the inside area felt much more hollow, and it's like things could not attach to it, to just like block it. Because right now, like I said, everyone has inside this like implants and all these things attached to certain parts inside your body, but not from the physical plane, from the next level, and they block certain signals, certain whatever things. However, they can be bypassed if you continue to work, if you continue to clean yourself, if you continue to do the work. But even so, there's things that one needs help with, especially if one has certain codes. I'm not going to insist too much on that. It won't help anyone, especially won't help me to say more about that. It's just in time certain things will become more evident, like I said before, and I won't have to basically say anything. It's just, it will be there, it just will be visible. Yes, and this alteration has helped me to just finally now kind of like go back to a time where I can maybe go back to sleep, but not during the day. But this is because of the energy that has increased, and so throughout the day I still cannot sleep. I still have problems with that, but at least at night, if I try to go back to bed early, I might get 6 to 7 hours, but not always, of sleep. So yeah, in the sense it hasn't been easy at all. But like I said, after this alteration, things feel a little more balanced, and feel like, oh, okay, can continue. But we'll see how the next few months are going to unfold, and whatever things might show up in my experience. Yeah, that was it. I hope this was interesting and helpful. And like I said, this concludes a very important, with this video I want to conclude an important chapter in my life that may not be apparent for you or for most people that watch my videos and follow me for this time, for this long. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a new chapter. That's it. See you next time. Ciao. Seen as like natural, and that would be just the right way, that's what God intended, and things like that.